So next on the Katatonia list is The Fall of Hearts. So this is their most progressive album. Its normal album is 12 songs, but if you go with alternate versions of this album, you get a few extras. The media book, which is the deluxe physical kind of thing, has one extra song, which is Vacarane, I believe, and then there's Sister, and then there's Quiet in Transitus or something like that, which gets the album to 15 tracks instead of the 12. The 12 tracks that is standard for the album still comes to quite a long album, seeing that, as I said, this is a pretty progressive album. It's their most progressive. Songs can last up to 7 minutes on this one. So when you take in the extra tracks, if you include absolutely everything that this album offers, then you're looking at 1 hour 21 minutes. It's a hefty album. Now, I like progressive albums, I like long albums. Longest album I've listened to is actually over 2 hours, which is an absolutely phenomenal album. It's a full-on concept, it's got voice actors, it's got instrumentation, it's got a phenomenal story behind it, great vocals, so it's just an incredible journey and story to go through. The Fall of Hearts, this isn't really a concept album, so there's no real narrative. Again, with progressive metal as well, usually it is musicians at top of their game. Not saying that Katatonia are lacking in this sense, that they're like only playing simplistic chords and have a very atrocious vocalist or something and sticking to a very typical song structure of verse, chorus, etc. They are good. They do have progressive elements on the albums after this, where they go back to shorter songs. It is still more progressive. It's just its tones. As for this is the album where they go for the full-blown progression. Albums after this one that I've reviewed on the channel has progressive elements, but it's a lot more refined. And I believe that probably was for the best after listening to the album actually before this one, Dead End Games, listening to The Fall of Hearts, City Burials, Sky Void of Stars, and Nightmares as extensions of the Awakened State. I do believe that Katatonia work by being progressive, so they're not very typical and overly repetitive that the conventional music is these days. But when you go full-fledged like this album is, in the style that Katatonia does and what they're masters of their craft at doing, I don't overly think it works well for them. This album actually seems to be pretty divisive. A lot of people actually find this to be one of the best progressive albums ever made and one of Katatonia's best. Others find it unbelievably bloated with how long the songs are and the album in general. Just how long it is. Before I even heard the album, I kind of thought that sounded a bit ridiculous, given that I like the longer albums with a lot more on show instead of just a very simple 3-minute tracks, which I usually would mention as being lazy. So before I listened to the album, I thought that was silly comments, but now I do kind of understand. And so I respect people who do like it and say it's one of their best albums. I can understand it, I can see it. As I said, there's not really a bad track on this. Like, literally looking at the track listing, there is nothing that I don't like. I like every single track. But as I said, the issue I have is what Katatonia does. Katatonia is melancholy. It's dark, depressing, and very moody. And it's very stripped back and works within the realms of atmosphere. So it's not doing a dozen notes a second, it's not doing massive soaring vocals and going through a mass range of octaves and rapid drum beats and all this weird shit and time signatures. Even though Katatonia can change the time signature, it's not like, oh, you have to keep changing it half a dozen times like, you know, Dream Theater or something. It works with being very restrained and having atmosphere of like an empty soundscape, but then in the emptiness with the very little things that they're using, have everything work to the most finest point that they're capable of. And so the vocalist kind of always sings in a certain range, but he is a master at it. That tortured kind of voice and breathy kind of notes that he kind of always delivers, he is a master at it. He doesn't have the biggest range, no, but he is phenomenal. For what he does, he's the best. There's people with more ranges that would literally blow this guy out of the water. When it comes to stuff like this, you cannot really ask for any better than this vocalist. And so musically, it really works. Just working on perfecting a melody to the most perfect point. But as I mentioned, extending these tracks to 7 minutes when everything is so soft and so melodic, and you got an hour 21 of slow, kind of depressing, very melodic. Not that everything is just an absolute ballad melody. It has heaviness. As I said, it works always with melody at the core front. And it does kind of start to drag. So I do like every track, but getting through the entire album, it takes a long time. When, as I said, you have the album that is over 2 hours, or, you know, a Dream Theater album or something like that, there is so much going on and so much energy that it kind of goes quickly. But because Katatonia, everything's kind of slow and everything, and you've got an hour 21 to get through, you feel that time a lot more. As I said, you don't really get solos. There's a few, but not really. You're looking at like 3, maybe 4, maybe a push, in 15 tracks. So there's no solos filling in the gaps. There is just a lot of vocals, and then kind of just an instrumental interlude here and there, really. So it's very drawn out. So to get to those 7 minutes and the usual progressive elements, you got drums and bass and guitar solos, guitar leads, and all sorts of changes of dynamics, vocal dynamics, pitch shifts, and all sorts of things. But as I said, Katatonia goes from one melody to another melody, to a beautiful melody to a darker melody, but everything maintains melody. And it means that verses are drawn out for quite a hefty kind of stretch, as well as choruses. Sometimes the verse, literally, I think the first track, Takeover, I think you got 3 verses until it actually hits the chorus. Which again is very interesting as far as song structures go. That is definitely not typical. But as I say, it's taking a while to literally kind of get there. As with other Katatonia, as I said, they don't really do solos. Nowadays they do, definitely. But the fact that they don't and they kind of work on melody, it's just a nice, beautiful melodied verse and everything with some phenomenal vocals that really work well, great atmosphere that's being built, and goes into a beautiful kind of chorus, and then kind of wraps up the song and you go into something else which might be a bit more kind of energetic, or maybe a bit kind of darker or something, or maybe a little faster. I say Sky Void Stars is one of their more upbeat kind of albums and everything. So it's got a bit more energy, so each album has its vibes, and then it's nice, short and sweet. But as I said, these songs are sweet, but just way too long. As I said, Takeover has its solo in it, it's really nice. Savin, great. Old Heart Falls, more melodic than the first 2 tracks, but it's a real beautiful song, and then it builds towards the end. Decima is phenomenal. I like Sanction, the residual is great. The Night Subscriber starts pretty heavy. So I like everything. There's some real nice, sweet piano elements, which are very simplistic, but sound absolutely stunning, like beautiful piano and so simply placed, but has such effect. So Katatonia is one of those things where it's basically like you do something very small, but it says 1,000 things. It's like, how to really explain it? Like trying to kind of explain to somebody that you love them without you ever actually saying I love you. It's like you can do all sorts of explaining, but the words themselves don't carry as much weight as the simple I love you, which is what carries weight. I said all the words that you're explaining, you have to conjoin all of them together in order for it to work. If you take the words all separately, it just doesn't work. Unlike love you. And that, it says Katatonia, is what works. It's like they take the bare essentials and just absolutely elevate it beyond belief. Chefs do it as well in cooking. If you put so many ingredients together, the ingredients get lost. You want each ingredient to be a star where you can taste it and elevate it. What's the point of having peas and these proteins and everything when it's buried by absolutely everything? Yes, it's masterfully done and it's a very difficult dish, but you are alienating the core ingredients. And as a chef, you want the core ingredients to shine because they're important. So that's Katatonia. And as I said, it's just kind of tricky when it's bare bones and stretched out. It just doesn't really work very well for Katatonia. So all the elements are very, very nice and everything, but it just goes on for a bit too long. It gets a bit too kind of repetitive at times. So when a solo comes in, it is very nice to see because it does give something a bit fresh to shake things up a bit. And so they do try. So there is heavy riffs in places, some nice little leads, some nice little, as I said, piano parts. So it's not like it's just the same thing from track 1 to track 12 or 15 if you get the bonuses. Talking about bonuses, the two bonus tracks, Vakarin and Sister, pretty bad. Vakarin on the media book, the physical copy, that's pretty bad, mostly because it's in their native language. I don't really know what they're saying. I'm not being racist, it's just I can't understand what he's saying. It's gibberish to me. I know it isn't, but I just don't get it. And then musically there's not really much going on, so it's a bit dull. Sister, that's in English, I can understand it, but yet again it's just kind of dull, which makes me think this is probably why it's a bonus track, because it just doesn't have that beauty and energy that the rest of the album does. Yet that final one, Quiet in Transitus or whatever, that's a phenomenal track. That's one of my favourites, if not the best track. I believe it has a solo, it's got phenomenal leads, the chorus is really catchy, has great melody to it, has some good energy behind it, it's the best. And so while the rest of the album, some songs are more energetic than others, that track has the most, and has a great guitar lead through the whole chorus. It's actually really damn great. I say not bashing all the other tracks, it's just stating the fact that that is one of the strongest tracks, if not actually the strongest. It is a really good track. But as I say, I don't want to knock it. It sounds like I'm saying, oh, it's really drawn out, it's a slog to get through. Yeah, it's very long, it's a bit of a drag, But nevertheless, if you literally just take the songs literally just by themselves and everything, there's nothing wrong. As I said, the vocals, the pianos, the keys, the atmosphere that's literally being built and everything, it all works. It's just too long. As I say, moving forward from this, where they go to City Burials and Sky Void of Stars, where it's progressive, that they condense the song more, it means that melodic elements, they can really like focus on them and hone them and make them kind of shine and everything. It has a bit more energy, there's a bit more flow to it, it's just a bit more kind of easier and everything. And then, as I said, also bringing in more guitar solos and everything also is able to pad it out without it just over rehashing itself, really. I said, with the fact that they are going more guitar orientated these days, probably coming back to something more like this would actually be a bit more beneficial moving forward now. Because, as I said, a lot of the songs, instead of literally really trying to fill it but without doing a solo, which is what's making it a bit more drawn out, they wouldn't have to do that. You can put a guitar solo in it to give it new life and a new kind of energy, something fresh, which is, as I said, what's needed. It would probably really help with this album. So, I say, it's not bad. I appreciate Katatonia trying new things, so it's not every album is the same old, same old. It's what every band should strive for as musicians. It is musically being creative, instead of just being a one-trick pony. It doesn't really make for much of a musician or anyone really being creative, because you are not creating anything new anymore. That's not creative. I like it. I do enjoy it. I do listen to it. It takes a bit more time for me to listen to it, and I do get more fun, as I said, from the other albums, but I still do like coming to this album to appreciate it for what it is and what the tracks are. I say, it's just a shame for its length, but the tracks are great. At the same time, so when the leads come in, it does work. And as I say, talking about the leads, they got a new lead guitarist, but the album was already actually done and dusted before they actually got hold of him. So what they basically did was they just brought him into the studio and said, just slap a few solos on a few tracks and we'll call it. And that was it. I said, if they really kind of had him really kind of incorporating himself through like every single track, with doing some kind of leads throughout the tracks to kind of give a bit more levity to them, as well as more solos, as I said, I think it would have drastically helped. And as I said, City Burials, he's there a bit more, and then Sky Void of Stars, he kind of really starts stepping into doing a lot more lead work and energy and solos. And then going forward, the two guitarists disappear, but then they get two great lead guitarists, but then it goes even more intense with guitaring, which is brilliant as far as I go. But yeah, it's still a great album. I still appreciate it. As I said, it's not something where you listen to this to get great musicianship in a technicality standpoint, but it is, again, great musicianship in a different type of technicality, which is perfecting the sinful. So it's not going to be for everyone, but as I said, if you really like something really beautiful and just really well crafted, great melodies and everything, Katatonia is where it's at. They are masters at this. And as I said, it's an album I'll keep coming back to. I will keep listening to it. It's not my favourite. I do prefer the one before this, which only has one solo in the whole album, but as I said, the album just flows much better than this one. So I do prefer more Dead End Kings. I prefer City Burials. I prefer Sky Void of Stars, as well as the new one. But nevertheless, it's solid. It is a good album.